The Alp is a supernatural entity in Germanic folklore that has many of the same attributes as the vampire and of the incubus demon. It is only separated from these other beings in that it wears a hat known as a tarncap that gives it its vast magical powers. The word Alp is the Germanic form of the word that comes into English as elf. Many variations of this entity exist in surrounding European areas, such as the Druid in southern Germany or the Old Hag in the British Isles. There happens to be different views as to what the Alp is, most of it being that they are demons, or that they are from the race of elves. The other beliefs state that the Alp are nature spirits, like the fauns of classical Greek and Roman mythology. A minority view states that the Alp are from the undead, a spirit of the deceased. The Alp is often associated with vampires because it will drink blood from the nipples of individuals, though women are the preferred victim of this entity. An Alp is mostly male. A female one, though, is known as a mare. The victims of the Alp are mostly female, whom it attacks during the night, always controlling and manipulating their dreams, and giving them nightmares as they engage in their soul, which is known as Albtraum, meaning elf dream in German. Its other supernatural powers, besides controlling your dreams, is the Alp attack, also known as Albdruck, which means elf pressure. The Alp attack or Albdruck is when this creature sits on a sleeper's chest and becomes very heavy until the crushing weight awakens the terrified dreamer. The victim awakens unable to move under the weight of the Alp. This entity is best known for being a shapeshifter, being able to take on the forms of a cat, pig, a dog, snake, and a small white butterfly. Another favorite form that it likes to take is that of a mist. In some instances, it was believed to go about in the guise of a monstrous black dog. In the German town of Cologne in 1790, an Alp in the form of a massive black dog with red eyes and sparks dropping from the corners of its mouth terrified the population and only disappeared when a certain body was dug up and burned at the cemetery. The black dog apparition is a belief you find across the world, but they're famous in the United Kingdom. Other supernatural abilities of the Alp is the power to become invisible to other people, or to cast the evil eye on its victims, directing their gaze at them and causing them illnesses and misfortunes, which is strongly identical to the death omens that I brought up in my last video. The Alp wears a hat on its head that gives it all the magical abilities that were just described. When it takes on a different form, the hat is always on. If it does not have its hat on, then it loses all its supernatural powers. As a result, the hat will give the Alp either a comical appearance or a sinister one. This is reminiscent of the modern-day Hatman phenomenon, which is an entity whom people have described as showing up in a comical or sinister appearance that always wears a hat from different time periods. Protections against an Alp include removing its eye to prevent it from giving you the evil eye. Other protections against this entity's hostility include laying a broomstick under the pillow, iron horseshoes hung from the bedpost, placing shoes against the bed with the toes pointing toward the door, or placing a mirror on the chest of the individual getting ready to sleep. Steel and crosses are also used to ward off the Alp. If none of these methods work and the Alp wakes you up according to legend, then you would have to ask for it to return to you in the morning to borrow something, or, get this one, to have coffee with you. The Alp will dash away at once, arriving in the morning to receive gifts either in its true form or else in the form of a human with eyebrows that meet, which links the Alp to the werewolf, who is also believed to have its eyebrows meet as well when in human form. And like the werewolf, the Alp is believed to change its form at night when on the prowl, and to have no memory of the event. One of the ways of finding out if you confront an Alp is when you injure or mark it while it tries to attack, and finding the same injury or mark on another being, just like you would find with the werewolf or witch when they take on another form. Another way for keeping the Alp from visiting you at night is by plugging up any holes, specifically keyholes. Plugging them during a visitation will inevitably seal it inside the room, as they can leave only through the original entrance. A light kept constantly on during the night will also effectively ward off an Alp. A sentry may also be employed to wait and watch for the Alp to attack the helpless sleeper. The Alp may be driven away if caught by someone not under the influence of the Alp. One example of this is a story that talks about two farm workers who slept together in one room. One night, the Alp paid them a visit and pressed on one of them with a crushing weight. This individual told his comrade that the next time this happened, to stop up the knothole in the door to prevent the entity from escaping. The next night, the Alp visited him in the same manner and woke him up just for him to grab the Alp, who was in the form of a piece of straw in his hand. It twisted and turned as he held it tightly until his comrade had stopped up the knothole. He then laid the piece of straw on the table and they both fell asleep until morning. When they awoke in the morning, they saw a beautiful girl behind the stove and nearly parted ways, arguing with each other over whom she belonged to. Finally, the one who stopped up the knothole gave in, and the other one married the girl. They had children and lived together happily. However, the woman often begged her husband to show her the knothole where she had entered the room, mentioning that she would have no peace until she had seen it. The man resisted her pleas for a long time, but once she begged him, saying that she could hear her mother in England calling the pigs and asking him to allow to see her again just once. Finally, he gave in. He went with her and showed her where she had entered the room. But in that instant, she flew out through the knothole and never returned. This story sounds like it could have and most likely involved a very abusive relationship, where the man kept the woman hostage, and when she escaped, he had others believe she was an Alp. It's also somewhat possible that the man and his comrade both had strange mutual dreams and maybe even folie à deux, which is a mental disorder where two or more people either share the same delusion simultaneously or by the suggestion of the dominant individual. The story of the Alp that was just mentioned even has a strong connection to the succubus, which is a demon that takes on the form of a seductive woman to sleep with a man and produce hybrid offspring. We hear very similar themes in modern hauntings, as well as the UFO abduction experience. We see that throughout time, the belief and experiences of different phenomena, like the demons, the werewolves, elves, and the undead, conjoin together to form a creature known as the Alp. The nightmare, also called Old Hag Syndrome, which is known today in the medical field as sleep paralysis, has contributed to the development and the belief of the Alp as well, and has kept it alive for a long time. The medicine people or shamans conjure up spirits that later on led to the belief in witches conjuring up the Alp. Low-frequency electromagnetic energy has even led to the belief in the Alp for two reasons. One, because energy has been linked to hallucinations and delusions in people. Two, the Alp cannot go near any metals, just like electromagnetic energy cannot, due to the energy being reflected off or absorbed by the metal. We see in more modern times that the Alp has a connection with the Hat Man, alien abductions, and hauntings. The phenomenon, rather real or as an archetype in the collective unconscious, has been around since the beginnings of human existence, evolving and changing throughout time.